My name is Raul Medrano. I'm a board member of the Hispanic Chamber of Montgomery County. I've been with the chamber off and on for the past 15, 20 years. My background is also in economic development. I worked for Montgomery County Economic Development for about 10 years and also have some experience in the real estate space and commercial real estate and all the kinds of creative spaces that are out there for businesses. I'm also an entrepreneur. I import coffee. Our business is called Café Medrano, and we import organic coffee from our family farm in Honduras. We import it, we roast it locally in the DMV area, and we distribute locally and nationally. And also, I'm a teacher. I teach at an adult charter school in Washington, D.C. I started a business program here in Washington. It's focused on the adult immigrant English language learner and for those that are seeking entrepreneurship as they integrate into the fabric of life here in the DMV. So it's something that I'm also passionate about. So that being said, I wanted to introduce LaTanya Howard. LaTanya Howard is a best-selling and award-winning author, educator, and entrepreneur who has spent more than a decade helping small business owners achieve their goals. As a small business owner herself, LaTanya understands firsthand the importance of running a business in a cost-efficient manner, which was her primary motivation for opening the Howard Corporate Center in Laurel, Maryland, a service office space that offers private offices, meeting rooms, and other flexible workspace solutions at a fraction of the cost of traditional office space. LaTanya is also a licensed commercial real estate agent and the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Kill the Rent, Grow Your Biz. 5 simple steps to cut costs, attract more clients, and improve your bottom line, something that we're all interested in. The book is aimed at closing the knowledge gap about the serviced office space industry and educating readers about how to maximize it as a viable alternative to traditional commercial real estate. LaTanya truly enjoys seeing her clients pursue their dreams and being a catalyst, if only in a small way, to help them succeed in doing so. To stay up to date on what LaTanya L.D. Howard is up to, visit www. That's LDH, yeah, ldhoward.com. Let me repeat, www.ldhoward.com. Without further ado, LaTanya, welcome. Bienvenida. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I feel like you've covered everything, so we can just go ahead to the Q&A, right?
Call that a wrap. No.
Call it a wrap. Call it a wrap. So, yeah, so thank you so much for that. And I'm really excited to be in the room with other business owners and business-minded people. I look forward to learning more about you and where you are on your office space journey. But as Raul said, I kind of live in the commercial real estate space. I own a shared workspace center. And after doing that for a few years, I decided to get my license. And I've created some other resources to help people just understand what their options are in the commercial real estate space. And more specifically, how they can kill the rent and grow the biz. So you don't have to necessarily fake it, as I playfully call maybe working out of your home or public venues when you don't want to. Right? Because sometimes that's the best solution for business owners at a given point in time. But again, the objective of today's webinar is to simply let you know what your options are so that you can make informed decisions about your office space solutions. So with that, I'm going to start sharing my screen and we will get going. All right, here we go. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. I can see it. Did you hit the audio button? Remember
Yes.
Okay, got that. Good.
Okay.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Awesome. Thank you for confirming. So anybody who knows me knows that I love a good quote. I love inspirational quotes. They kind of are a compass for me, depending upon what it is that I'm going through in life. And this is actually one of my favorite quotes. When the why is clear, the how is easy. And for me, my why is very simple. It's to help small business owners succeed. And the way that I do that primarily, my how is, as Raul and I just mentioned, through educational resources, through other resources that empower and level the playing field for small business owners, particularly in the commercial real estate space. And that's what we're going to talk about today: commercial real estate, and more specifically, office space solutions. And even more specifically than that, what types of options you have to kill the rent and grow your biz, so that you don't necessarily have to take on long-term leases or other financial commitments that come along with the more traditional option. What other options do you have so that you can have a professional image without breaking the bank? How specifically can small business owners kill the rent? So today, what we're going to cover are some of the challenges of working at home or coffee shops or other public venues, which I playfully call faking it. We're also going to talk about a viable solution for this challenge, and then also steps, an action plan that you can put into place right away to maximize this solution for your business. But I'm curious to know right now where you are on your office space journey. More specifically, what is your current office space situation and what is your desired office space situation? So I'm going to stop sharing right now. We have an intimate group right now, so we can maybe get everybody to just quickly answer those two questions. So go ahead and unmute yourself and answer, what is your current office space situation? Do you work from home? Do you work out of coffee shops? Do you work somewhere else? And what is your desired office space situation? So right
I'll
now,
go first.
perfect.
Okay,
Yes.
Daryl, go for it.
Yeah. So right now, currently, we work from home. We have an office set up in the basement. It's quite large basement. It's nice, but our goal is to have an office out in the open, whether it's sharing with another tenant that may have a larger space or a small space of our own in an area, obviously, that would be centrally located, which would help maybe close to the home, but also close to, like the belt, the 270 and or 70, either way, so that we have easy access in and out. But definitely outside the house, because I think you can get a lot more done away from the home. Because when you're at home, there's too much interference with many other things going on, and you feel obligated to get those things done.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that, Daryl.
You're welcome.
Who else?
Anyone else?
I can go next. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So currently, I am a sole proprietor of my own business. It's a pressure washing business. Hydro Hero. We work out of the Montgomery County area. I'm mainly in the session to kind of learn how to skip the working at home phase, skip the remote phase, and get right to once I start my own business where I'm required to hire employees. I want to be at the point where I know enough that I can go right into an office space at a good price and not have to work at home or fake it, as you said, for the start. Want to get right to the point, really.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? To share what kind of space you're working at right now, at this moment in time.
And we are in a safe space right now, so there is no need to be shy about whatever your current office space situation is.
How many is anyone else renting space right now in an office? No, so no one's in a commercial space renting out. Okay. How about you, Elizabeth? Where is the junior achievement? You're in an incubator, I think, no?
No, so I'm a little bit off-brand for this discussion today. Very quickly, Junior Achievement actually does entrepreneurship, financial literacy for students in the DMV. It's like the quick ones. I am working from home. If you can hear my husband talking in the background, and my son just showed me something. So there are distractions at home. I do have offices to work out of. I had been in financial advising for a long time, and there's a lot of coffee shop meetings and meeting other entrepreneurs out in the world. And it was kind of fun to be running around. You do start racking up a lot of coffee shop bills. So having a distinct space definitely is a bonus. And if I had my space at home with a door, it would be quiet now.
Good.
All right.
Latanya, I rent out space at at Hispanic Chamber of Montgomery County in Kensington. They have like a small incubator space there, and I've been renting out space there for my coffee business as far as operations and management goes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, those who shared. And for those who didn't, that's okay. I know sometimes people have to warm up, but there will be other times to participate later on. But I do appreciate everyone who did share, because you touched on something that I am going to cover today. So we'll probably come back to those points. So I'm going to reshare my screen again. All right. So we talked about what the challenge is, and I'll state it again. It's people faking it with their office space. And again, I say that playfully, but it's another way of saying some of the things that our attendees just spoke to, working out of the home basement, or not really knowing how to get started as they're beginning to launch their business, or working in coffee shops. So this is a challenge that many small business owners face. And here's a short video that I'm going to show that kind of animates faking it a little bit more clearly, so that I can really drive that point home on what faking it looks like. Do you dream of having a professional office for your small business, but have meetings at coffee shops instead to keep expenses low? Or are you using a P.O. box as your company's address because the price to have a real address is too high? Or perhaps you run your business out of a spare room in your home because the cost to maintain a real office will break the bank. The truth is, these are ways that small business owners fake it to avoid paying office rent. And while you might think you're saving money, faking it is costing you. Just think about it. When a prospect sees that you conduct business at coffee shops instead of your own professional office, how do you think that affects your credibility? It goes down. All because you want to prevent your business from being killed by rent. Okay. So hopefully that drives the faking it scenario a little bit closer to the point that I'm trying to drive at. But what you see on your screen now are some examples of faking it. And, you have the P.O. box scenario, you have the coffee shop or other public venue scenario. And as Daryl mentioned, he said that his home office is nice. I'm assuming it's nicer than this, Daryl, but this might look a little bit familiar. But, each of these things, I'm going to stop sharing. Each of those examples, while they might be low cost, right? They actually do cost something. And Elizabeth pointed to one of those things. When you're eating at a coffee shop or working out of a coffee shop, you have to pay coffee. You have to pay for coffee as a courtesy. We've heard in the news recently, some places will actually kick you out if you don't buy something. So all of these things come with some form of a cost. What might be some other costs that come along with faking it, whether it's a P.O. box user or working out of a coffee shop or a home office? What might be some other costs associated with that? Anybody just shout it out, unmute yourself.
Advertising.
What do you mean by advertising?
Well, advertising, meaning if you're out and about, you might have a better opportunity to give your business card to someone that you wouldn't find in your house because you're at home. And this might increase your sales. This might get you a new project. This might get you to meet somebody who you need, maybe as part of your business needs. But when you're at home, you're kind of trapped. You don't have exactly that opportunity as much.
Absolutely. Okay, very good. Anybody else want to throw out some other potential costs of faking it, if you will?
Yeah, you can you're preventing yourself from building up your team and building up your team chemistry, because if you're at home on remote, there's obviously not that face-to-face contact, which is psychologically a big thing when it comes to building connections. So being in the office can be a way to see these people every day, create connections, personal connections that really build up your team and can create higher revenue and all.
Absolutely. Excellent answers. And some other costs might be, for those of you who might be interested in working with the government, for example, they simply don't allow you to use a P.O. box. You have to have a quote unquote real address. And I know that there are other types of solutions out there. public mailboxes that may have the appearance of a real address, a street address, and a suite number. But what happens if somebody Googles your address or decides that they want to just walk in to see if they can schedule an appointment with you, and then they realize it's actually in a strip mall? Or what about, this is something that I discovered during my research for my book, but similar to how you want to keep your finances separate between your business and your personal, something similar exists when it comes to the physicality of your business, in particular, if you have an LLC. Because if you have your business and your home in the same location, what I learned is that that could actually pierce the corporate veil that an LLC and some of these other corporate structures may create. So there's actually a benefit to having your business address and your home address as two separate spaces. So we'll talk about some of those other costs as we move along, but very good job pointing out some costs, some intangible costs that may make the difference between you achieving your business goals or not. So going back to sharing my screen here. So you see the images of faking it. What is the solution to faking it? Well, the solution is serviced office space. And there are other names that you might have heard for this. You might have heard shared workspace. You might have heard the term executive suites, a term that a lot of people hear now is co-working. These are all generally the same thing. There are some differences, which I talk about in my book, but for the purposes of today's discussion, they're all the same thing because they allow you to access a commercial real estate solution without the high cost and without the time investment that comes along with a traditional solution. Now, here are some examples of what service office space looks like. Now, when we talk about what the action steps are for maximizing service office space, what you will discover is that every space looks different. And there are certain questions that you can ask and certain steps that you can take to make sure that the space you select works best for you. But these are images of my particular shared workspace, Howard Corporate Center. But what I want to illustrate here is that all of these are professional spaces. I would hope that you would agree with that. They're all furnished. And you can reserve these spaces by the hour, by the day, or even on a full-time basis. So instead of meeting clients at a coffee shop, for example, you can instead meet them in a space like this. And many of the costs that small business owners want to avoid by faking it are actually included in this solution. So the furniture is included, of course, the internet is included. We have a receptionist who will meet and greet your guests as they come. So it's a good way to kill the rent, but without killing your professional image and without killing your credibility. So this, yes, does someone have a question? No? Okay, I thought I heard something. So, of course, this is a private office. We also have meeting rooms and conference rooms. Again, very flexible terms, and they all can be rented as you need it. So if you find yourself in a situation where it makes sense to not commit to something on a long-term basis and continue working out of your home or other places on an as-needed basis, when it's time to have a more professional image or meet that client and seal the deal, this is a solution that could potentially work for you. So the way that I like to summarize the benefits of service office space is what I call the 3 C's of service office space. And the 3 C's are credibility, convenience, and control. So we talked a little bit about credibility already. It leaves a different impression, whether you believe it or not, or have heard of it or not, when you present yourself as someone who works out of a real office or someone who works out with a PO box. It leaves a different impression and it scores your credibility in a different way. So that is one way that service office space can help you. It can increase your credibility. Service office space also can be a convenient solution. Daryl mentioned that he wants to work someplace that's close to the highway or perhaps close to his home. And when you take the action steps that we're going to talk about later, you can actually gauge how convenient a particular solution is for you. And one of the advantages of having really an oversaturated marketplace right now, because everybody knows that these types of things exist everywhere, right? There are some pretty big names in the industry that have a global footprint. So there are a number of places that you can choose from, and you can be picky about which one you go with, depending upon how convenient it is for you and your needs. And then the third of the 3 C's is what I call control. I mentioned before that you can rent these spaces by the hour, by the day, or on a full-time basis. And you want to select a place that will give you optimal control over how long and how much of the solution that you use. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, Latanya, what about COVID? You know, this may beg the question whether or not it's safe or apropos, as some would say, to even work in these types of places where, you know, COVID still exists, variants are still popping up. Well, I did address that in the second book that I wrote in 2020, at the end of 2020, after COVID. And I added a 4th C to these 4 C's, cleanliness. Now, of course, whenever you use a service office space, you want it to be clean and you want the janitorial services to be active. But after COVID, cleanliness has taken on a new meaning. So I talk about it from a perspective of social distancing. Do we sanitize the surfaces on a regular basis? And do we make it a place where people feel comfortable and safe? Do you have your health provisions marketed and visible on your website and otherwise? So hopefully this helps you to have a better sense of how service office space can help you regardless of where you are on your entrepreneurial journey. Now, here are some other benefits associated with service office space. Some of you mentioned the psychological benefits already. Brandon in particular talked about how working with other people and just kind of feeding off of that energy of working with other people can actually lead to more productivity. Other benefits include cost savings versus traditional office space. Hopefully you can see these numbers, but at the bottom, what you see here is that when you tally up all of the costs associated with commercial traditional office space versus the service office space solution, you can save nearly $40,000 a year, probably more nowadays because this chart is a few years old. So you really can save quite a substantial amount of money, but still have much of the same benefits that come along with the traditional commercial real estate product. There's also a faster startup. With the service office space solution, you could possibly get started the same day, whereas with the traditional product, you may have to wait several months sometimes, minimally weeks, so that you can negotiate the lease, get any build out done, and all of the other types of things that are required for a traditional product. So there are multiple benefits with with service office space versus traditional office space. So hopefully, again, it gives you a better sense of how this solution can work for you. Now, before we go to the final thing that we're going to talk about today, which is how you can put this solution into action, I do want to share some additional helpful resources that may help you to take a deeper dive into what we're talking about today. The first is some free downloads that I want to offer you. So have your camera ready so you can scan these QR codes. If you scan this code, you will be led to a website where you can sign up for a full chapter from my first book. And you can also get the 4 C's chart, which will be helpful as you're beginning to do your research for shared workspace solutions. And you'll have another opportunity to scan this QR code later. So go ahead and take a photo now. The next thing I want to share with you is some special pricing on the Kindle version of my books, Kill the Rent, Grow Your Biz. Until midnight tonight, the books are only 99 cents, so that's almost free. But this is a way that you can take a deeper dive into some of the topics that we're talking about today and download some of the other information that I'm touching on as well. And then lastly, I want to share that I will be launching an online course soon, speaking specifically about commercial real estate. And this is an opportunity, if you're interested, to scan the QR code to schedule a free discovery call. We can talk a little bit more about what that course is going to cover and whether that's a good fit for what it is that you're trying to achieve. And lastly, for those of you who are active on social media, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and Facebook, because I do sometimes share information on these modalities as well. And I would love to stay in contact with you after we adjourn today. All right, so now to the action plan. The final thing that we're going to talk about today as it relates to solutions for overcoming the faking it dilemma. And the way that I like to summarize this action plan is with an acronym that I call BRISK. And BRISK stands for browse, research, interview, select, and then finally kill the rent. So when you're browsing your service office space solutions, some of the keywords that you can use when you're using the internet or whatever type of modality you want to use, some keywords would include virtual offices. You may want to put in the keyword conference room if that's what you're interested in, along with the city that you're interested in working in, and figure out what types of SOS or service office space providers are actually very close to you in your own backyard. You might be surprised by how many are actually out there. The next thing you want to do is to actually research these individual spaces. So Daryl, to your point, you wanted to see, you would be interested in a space that's close to your home or maybe close to a particular roadway. Well, it's during that research phase for that particular location where you will be able to identify where is it in proximity to those major roadways, where is it in relation to where you live or where your clients may be. The next step is to actually interview the particular location that you're interested in. And a lot of people actually skip this step. I actually have clients who I have never met in person. We did everything virtually and electronically, but I would strongly encourage you to actually go to the space and tour the space, even tour the building, ask questions, talk to other users of the space so that you'll get a sense of who you might be sharing the space with. So definitely do not overlook the importance of the interview step. The next thing you want to do is to actually select your space. And that's where the 4Cs download chart that I mentioned earlier will come in handy. When you're doing your research, I would recommend that you come up with your 3 top choices. And then from those 3 top choices, select which one meets most of your needs, if not all of them, and then move forward with that solution if it's available. And then the last thing I would say is to kill the rent. And by this, I mean actually begin using the space, begin using the services. There are some people who sometimes sign up, but they don't actually take full advantage. And the only way that you can fully maximize this solution is to begin using it. All right, so we covered a lot in these few moments here. So I'm just going to take a breath and see, does anyone have any questions about anything that we've covered so far? Everybody good? Thumbs up? Yes, Elizabeth. Yes.
I have a couple of questions. I've seen some other co-working spaces before, and sometimes people just want to get out of the house and not sit in a coffee shop. They want to sit in a more professional atmosphere and meet other people, you know, the opportunity to actually network with other co-working folks. But my question really is about the private office space. You know, so that's only, I mean, you know, how much can you decorate it? Is it really your private space? Is it a co-space? Is it, you have to rent it by the month? I don't know how many private offices you rent for the day, you know, so just a couple of those. If one wants a private office and a real, like their own space, how much of it do they have to change, to manipulate, for how long?
Very excellent question. Thank you for asking that. I will caveat my answer by first saying that every space is different. So that's why it's important to interview and get a sense of what their policies are. But with my space, and with many of the spaces that I'm familiar with, when you use a space on a full-time basis, it is actually your space 24/7. No one else has access to it for the time that you're actually using it. And yes, you can hang your certificates, you can customize it and decorate it and make it yours. Of course, there are some limitations to that because we have to eventually turn the space over again. So we don't want you knocking walls or, you know, creating the doors or whatever the case is. Even though there are some spaces that allow you to customize it to the point that you can actually reconfigure it a little bit differently. So I would say that the short answer is yes, you could, but during that interview stage of the process, ask if there are any limitations to doing that. Thank you for asking that question. Anybody else at this stage? All right, going once, All right. So now, I mentioned before that I like a good quote. All right. And how many of you are familiar with this quote? Knowledge is power. It's an oldie but goodie, right? Well, what about the notion that knowledge is not power? That knowledge is actually only potential power, and it's not actually powerful until you actually take action and you direct it towards a definite end. This is one of my favorite quotes from Napoleon Hill. And with that in mind, you do have to take action and kill the rent to make all of these things that we talked about today work for your business. So again, here are some actions that you can take today. You can download that free chapter as well as the 4Cs chart to help you as you're selecting and prioritizing your solutions. Take advantage of the special pricing for the 2 books that I mentioned, and also set up a discovery call. And I'm curious to know now, I'm going to stop sharing again. What are some of the key takeaways? We've covered quite a bit. So what are some key takeaways and next steps that you can think of so far based on what we've talked about?
Well, I'd say that everything you've covered, it's amazing to me because my partner and I, are actually just looking at a space to share with someone who already has that space, and it has exactly what you have mentioned, and it has, if you want to do a little conference, you have a little conference room. If you want to set up maybe something for making phone calls, there's also a little center there, and it's all part of the monthly plan. I guess the main thing is to see what that cost is and how we can, if it's going to be uh, intelligent enough to use that space and and make it back in maybe in sales or something like that, because just getting started into a new space like that, it's, even though it's seems very easy and simple, it's still a quite large step to take getting
Mhm.
started.
It is. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And what I would say in response to that, and this is one of the other benefits of shared workspaces, part of that control benefit, is that you can choose how little or how much you want to use, and then you can always scale as your business grows. So I would recommend that you start off with maybe just an as needed plan so that you're not committing to anything long term. You just use the space when and if you need it. And then if you find that it's really working for you, you can talk to your provider and then maybe add more hours or then eventually graduate to a full-time. But that is an excellent point. And I think, Daryl, because you have made so many great points today, you are going to get a free download of the audiobook version of my book. So I will follow
Thank
up with
you
you
very
on
much.
it. No,
Thank you
thank
very much.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
one other thing I wanted to add too, because this space that we're looking at,
Mhm.
it's very impressive, but a space like that also be too impressive? Because just having a little office, this is the building that we're looking at is a 12-story building, and it's only on the second floor and the first floor, but it seems to me that it might be a little bit unbelievable for clients to come there and say, "You actually have an office here?" How does that play?
Well, if I'm understanding your question, that's actually one of the benefits of it, that you can have this appearance of having a much bigger space or business than you actually have, but you're only paying a fraction of a cost. So that's actually part of the design of this particular model, so that to help small business owners think and feel big. That's actually a quote that I came up with myself. But small business owners sometimes feel that because they're small, that they have to act small and think small. And service office space is a way of counteracting that. So it's giving the appearance that you have this space, you have this receptionist, you have these services. And that might help to give people more confidence in you as a business owner. So if it seems too much to be true, that's actually by design. But having said that, make sure that you're asking the right questions when you begin to interview these people so that you aren't, being, hoodwinked, so to speak.
Thank you very much for that explanation. That helps a lot.
Okay. Anybody else want to share their key takeaways or next steps? We still have a little bit more to do, but I'm just curious where we are now.
I would like to add that, in today's economy, especially since COVID, a lot of commercial space is not being leased out. And so there's going to be more and more inventory of this type of space that LaTanya's talking about coming in into the marketplace. If companies are working a hybrid schedule, even at the school that I work at, it's 3 days in person, 2 days online, virtually that we work. I think many companies, especially in the DMV area, are going in that kind of model. You know, as I say, the toothpaste is out of the tube, can't put it back in now. It's going to be hard to want to get people to come 5 days a week in person. I mean, you know, just Zoom has mystified all of that. So having these kinds of spaces are going to be more and more prevalent in the marketplace, especially here in the DMV area for sure. So I think that's a good thing. In other industries as well, related to food services, there's a lot of commercial community kitchen spaces. Same concept. I rent the kitchen for the time that I need it. I prep my menu, do my thing, and I'm out, right? And so we're seeing a lot of that in the food service hospitality industry, even growing in the DMV area. So all this kind of shared spaces, collective spaces, shared costs, you know, it helps bring your operations budget down quite a bit. So there's a lot of, you know, truth and value to what LaTanya is sharing out with us.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much, Raul. Anybody else want to share some takeaways or next steps before we move on? Everybody's good? Okay. So just to bring this all together, we have covered quite a bit in a short period of time, but just to recap, you know, faking it, even though I do say it playfully, it is a real challenge and it really can cost you. So hopefully after today's discussion, you have a better sense of what some of those costs are. Service office space is a viable solution to that. And we talked about what it looks like. We talked about ways that you can determine what is a good location for you or not. Thinking about those 3 C's and that 4th C that came in after COVID. And then lastly, you know, following the 5 simple steps to put this into action, because even though some people think knowledge is power, it's only potential power. You have to put it into action. And that's what those 5 steps hopefully will help you to do as you begin to take this next step on your office space journey. Now, before we completely wrap up, I have to leave you with a gift. And that gift is in the form of a pop quiz. Okay. No webinar is official unless there is a pop quiz. Okay. So this is the pop quiz, and the person who passes this pop quiz first, okay, wins a free download of my audiobook, Kill the Rent, Grow Your Biz. So open up your chat because you're going to have to type the answer to this in your chat. So the first person to correctly identify and type into the chat the 4 C's wins. Go. All right, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, Brandon, you got 3. I need one more. One more, Brandon. Oh, Jose beat you, Brandon. Jose wins. Congratulations, Jose. Thank you guys for trying your best. You know, so if nothing else, your typing speed just increased just now, right? So you always learn, right? We're all winners in that regard. All right. So with that, you know, I am finished with the content part of today's session. So now I am going to turn it back over to Raul to answer any additional Q&A that you might have.
Sure. I wanted to also, today we were talking about this shared space and all the different terms that LaTanya was referring to. But does anyone have any questions also about the traditional office space that's out there in inventory? Does anyone have any questions or curiosity about what's going on? What are some of the trends? Where are some of the real estate office spaces that are convenient to look at? Does anyone have any questions about that? Whether it be in Montgomery County, DC, or Virginia, I think LaTanya and I cover that pretty well in the DMV.
Mhm.
Any thoughts? Or for some of you that are at home, is there a county or an area that you're looking at specifically to want to set up an office space?
Yeah, we're thinking Montgomery County would be ideal for us because our center hub is Damascus Gaithersburg. So
Okay,
Montgomery County would be ideal for us.
sure. So that Gaithersburg area would be good, off of 270
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
type of thing. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's good to know. Anyone else?
I'm curious if being close to the metro is important for a lot of small businesses, access to public transportation for people, for yourself, or for people to get to your space.
That's a good question. I think it also depends on the business model that you
Right.
have.
And who you're trying
Uh,
to attract. Yeah.
right, exactly. So I think that'll depend, if it's business to business, business to consumer model as to what that's going to be. I think that'll play a big difference. Being close to public transportation, attracting a younger workforce that is heavily dependent on public transportation and metro, that kind of thing. So that's up to each one of you to kind of get a sense of as to what your business model is
Right.
and what's, where the location is going to be.
Now, I'm just curious. I'm going to pick on Brandon a little bit here. Now, Brandon, if I understood you correctly, you said you're kind of in the midst of starting up your business or really getting it going. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I mean, I'm 3 months in to my pressure washing business.
Mhm.
I have a parent company. It's got solutions. So hopefully I'll have other. So what I have an e-commerce brand on Amazon FBA. I have my pressure washing business, and hopefully, once I can have my pressure washing business operate just solely from my future employees, I can
Mhm.
open up a new business looking at maybe junk removal or maybe a business out of the cleaning or e-commerce industry that I may need an office space for.
Okay.
It's just I just am trying to get to the point where I can create these businesses, allow them to operate from employees that I may hire, and then keep creating businesses and repeating that process, so to say.
Okay. So given where you are in your entrepreneurial journey with the multiple businesses, it sounds like you have, does it sound like service office space could be a solution for you, or do you think you would need a more traditional type of space, like a warehouse or something else? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure what industry I would like to get into after this. One that I particularly favor at the moment, after this pressure washing. Right now, pressure washing all it requires is a trailer that I keep in my
Mhm.
garage. But something like junk removal would require a larger truck with a dump trailer. That would need a more industrial sized garage to keep that. So maybe that, if I want to go into a different industry,
Mhm.
um, maybe a traditional office space, or maybe if it favors service office space as well.
Okay.
Just don't know what industry that would be.
Right.
But primarily, I like the cleaning industry.
There's a lot of light industrial space in
Mhm.
Gaithersburg by Air Park in
Okay.
particular. They're light industrial mixed flex space.
Hmm.
Rockville, Park Lawn Drive, obviously, Goody Drive,
Yeah.
Rockville, even down here in Kensington, not far from my offices, believe it or not.
Hmm.
Um, Along Brookline Drive, you have some commercial space for these types of business operations that some of you have.
Mhm.
You know? So yeah, again, it goes back to, your business model and what needs you have. If you're people you're going to hire, Brandon, if they need to come to the office in the morning, get their work order, their routes, and
Mhm.
then from
Right.
there out, I'm assuming, that type of thing. So it all depends.
Yeah, right. And that's the point I want to get to, having once I get to the point where I can hire employees, them coming to the office and obviously getting their routes, having multiple trucks set up to pressure wash, and having multiple clients listed for the day and having them go out to these clients. So that would be a point where I would need maybe a traditional office space with an attached garage of some sort, or assigned parking spaces that I could use to park these trucks, and then also have an employee space as well.
Right. It's something I just want to throw out there too, is that even though we talked about service office space as being a solution for what many small business owners need, what you might discover as you do your research is that it might not be a fit for you. You might need a traditional office space. So don't try to make service office space fit if it doesn't. There are some industries where it doesn't work. I've had people come to me looking for a service office space, and then they discovered, because of licensing regulations or some other type of oversight body wants them to have their own physical standalone space. They don't want their address to be shared with other people. For some industries, that is an issue. There are also some industries, such as in some personal services, that require water pressure to be at a certain point, and the water temperature, for example, to be able to get to a certain point that you might not necessarily get in a shared workspace. So just keep your mind open. It's important to know what your options are, and that was really the objective of today. But by all means, don't try to make it fit if it doesn't.
And I was thinking,
Right.
Latanya, too, it could be at some point in your scalability, as you're scaling your business, it could be a combination. It could be
Yes.
warehouse space for your operations and equipment and trucks coming out and everything. But then maybe it's one of these shared spaces for the administrative part, payroll, HR, places
Right.
where you might want to have a client come to, where you don't want them coming to the warehouse per se, right? That kind of thing. So it could be a combination of things in the future, and
Right. Yeah.
and that also could be laid out in your business plan as you're developing
Absolutely. Absolutely.
roadmap as to what kinds of space requirements you're going to need at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, that's the point I want to get to, is these contracts with these corporations. Because right now I'm on a house to house basis, primarily door knocking or cold calls. So one big one is painting companies who need their houses pressure washed before they paint these houses. If not, it's just word of mouth from neighbor to neighbor, lining up those, and then gaining those Google reviews, which I've been trying to do primarily. Google's big, just for references that I can use to contact these larger scale commercial properties that can look at my references and be like, yeah. But I just want to have the credible location, like you said. That's one takeaway I got from this, because right now my business corporation is my home address.
Right.
Right. So obviously when I send out this mail coming from a home address and apartment, so to say, doesn't look as good as it would for a corporate address or some sort.
Right. Absolutely. Any other questions or takeaways or thoughts?
Yep.
Well, I guess I would just like to give you one takeaway that I was just thinking about, because in business there's three key items, and that is location, location, location. And so the ultimate goal for our success would be to find the best location in the nation for us to be able to be successful in our business.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So Raul, do we wrap up, or what are we doing?
I would say right now, I was going to say, I think we're good. I think if there are no more questions on this is good. I think they have your contact information.
Yes,
Tanya,
absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
Right. Okay, that's good. And just keep mindful of the chamber website for future webinars, workshops type of thing. And, we try and and get a mix of topics that would be of interest to our membership and small businesses and nonprofits as well, in that regard. So thank you very much for making the time to join us today. We hope that you walked away with some good takeaways, made some new contacts as well. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
And then-
all.
And
Thank
Jose
you.
and Daryl, we will follow up with you with the information you need for the audiobook download.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.